to sit?
No, we're good. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, Wednesday. What is it? Thursday? Yeah, I'm just in a different spot. Thanks.
Tim's here today.
I'm in Iowa City. Yeah, kind of switched up the week. But again, thanks for joining us. Shields Live. This is National Serger Month, so we're going to kind of focus on Sergers this month. And today we're going to talk about the Baby Lock Triumph. Next week we're going to try a couple other ones, and then following week maybe some entry level stuff. But anyway, again, thanks for joining us, and ask questions and enjoy the demo. I will be back afterwards to talk about some of the different promotions that are going to go on for this month, especially with the Sergers. But you know, Sergers are a really, really fun machine to play with. They're very versatile. Sometimes people are very intimidated because there are so many different threads, and you've got loopers and needles. But we want to try to simplify that for you. So I'll let Jan take it over, and I'll be back in a little while.
Thanks, Dan.
Catch you later. And it's Masters Week. Woo.
Oh, it is.
Good time.
I saw that this morning. Okay, so we're going to work on some Sergers today. And just a second here, I got to find the comments. Hello, everybody. Looking for the comments. So we're going to talk about Sergers. So we're going to go ahead and look at the Triumph Serger. We're just going to do some simple, basic things with it. And I wanted to show you because it's such a cool Serger. And I want to show you how easy it is to work with it, how easy it is to thread it, how easy it is to, it's got air threading everywhere. It's just awesome. So I'm just gonna show you the Serger today. Okay. So if you give me a second, I'm gonna switch the cameras, and let's see here, the microphone, hopefully. So I have the older version of the Triumph. Hi, Lynn. And just a second, I was going to turn the banner off too while I'm in here. There we go. And make sure I got my microphone switched. Yes, I think I did. Yes. Okay. All right. So, I have the older version of this. I have the Ovation, which is the older version. But what's really awesome about this one is it has air threading for the loopers for the underneath. But it also has air threading on the needles, so it's so cool. I'm going to push this back just a little bit. I'm not used to using a Serger on this table. Hi, Nancy. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about this. I'm going to thread the machine for you. This machine is actually a Serger. Okay, so these little spots over here are for the Serger. And then the spots over here, it's also a cover stitch machine. So this machine does both things, and you can go from one side to the other, and it's very easy to do, and it doesn't take that long to change the machine from a overlocker to a cover stitch machine. The other thing I've always loved about this machine is that it has a speed control. So a lot of our sewing machines, it has a speed control on it. So I've always loved that because I can control my machine a little bit better since I'm using a foot controller. That's one of the things I've loved. And then on this machine, they added the air threading on the needles, which is so cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit. So one of the things that I love about the Triumph, most of the Baby Lock machines have these really cool guides. These are called inspirational guides. Now, this is not a manual. These come with most of the machines. And what they are is they're actually a technique book. So this one will help you with technique. And I love that they do that because, Sergers are something that, a lot of us is not our main machine that we sew on. So these technique guides are really, really cool. So I've got that. But the thing that I love the most is I don't have to get my manual out. The Baby Lock Sergers have these little cheat sheets, okay? And so there's on this one, there's more pages. There's 6 pages, and it shows us all the combinations of how to thread the machines, where to put the threads, where to put all the dials, okay? So what I did when I got my machine at first, I learned what the little boxes up here mean. And I don't know if you can see this too well, but what each box meant. Okay. So I learned that from my book, and now I never get the book out because now I know what I have to do with these boxes to set my machine up just to thread it. And it shows me where to put my threads here. Everything's color coded. It's so easy. So what I do to thread this machine. So we're just going to set up a standard 4-thread overlock. Okay, so let's just try that first because that's a good standard one to do. And I'm going to walk you through this little piece of paper. So this is the 4-thread overlock. Okay, and then like this, these other ones have like, here's a 3-thread fight lock, the blanket stitch, here's your overlocks with your wave stitch, your combination stitches, the chain stitches. So we'll talk about the cover stitch in a minute too. That's on one of these papers too. So all of these different combinations of stitches are all on these papers, okay? And ours are, I just have them printed from their website, and then I laminate them so that if I spill something on them. So you can do that too. There's a nice card that comes with the machine, but I usually use these instead. So, okay, so we're going to talk about what all these little things mean, and hopefully you can see these fairly well on the screen. I wish I had a little bit better way to show you, but I think you'll be able to see. Okay, so the first little box is telling you where to put your needles, okay? So when we're doing the overlocking, the needles are going to go, and if I get a little closer down here, you'll be able to see this, okay? There's 5 positions for needles on this machine. So the front 3 are for the cover stitch, and the back 2 are for the overlock, okay? So I have them in the overlock position already. So my needles show that these are in the overlock or O position, and the 3 cover stitch needles are not in the machine. So I just have 2 regular needles in the back position. The second little box is the length of the stitch, okay? And the length, this is how I remember all these things. They're over here on the side, these 2 little dials right here. Just going to open this up so you can kind of see. And the way I remember which dial is which, the length is the large dial. So they both start with the letter L. So I want my length to be, and we're going to use this a couple times. So the length to be 2.5. It says 2.5 to 4. And so you can change it anywhere in that, and sometimes even more, a little bit more. But I'm going to put it around 2.5 or 3 for my basic overlock. And then my width is the wee dial. So I call it the wee dial, which is small, and the smaller dial is the width dial. So I am looking at, since both needles are in, I am looking at the larger number here. Okay, since both needles are in, there's 2 numbers. You can tell they're just slightly different sizes. So I'm going to leave it on the medium or the 6. That's kind of where I want it to be. Okay, then there are some selectors on the machine, and there's like a cool little diagram in the book that just shows what all these things are. The next box says the wave selector. So there's a wave stitch on this, so it's a decorative stitch, and an overlock stitch. So I want this to be on overlock because that's what we're going to be doing is overlock. So I have it down on the overlock. The next dial, or the next little box here, says chain needle tension, chain looper tension. Well, those are just have a line through them. So that means we don't need those for the overlock side. We'll talk about those in a minute. And then the upper looper selector. And if you see, there's a little picture of it here. And that is this little thing, looks just like it down here on the machine. So if you look down here, this is the upper looper selector, okay? It needs to be in the up position, which is, it says up right here, and it is up. Now, if you need to move it down, if you put it to the down position, you need to turn your hand wheel over here. My hand's right here, it's on the side. Turn your hand wheel and it will lower that looper. You can see this looper's down now. So I want it up, and you need to do the same thing. Just turn your hand wheel a revolution toward you, and it'll come back up again. Okay, so there's my looper. So that needs to be up for my overlock. So let's look what else is on here. Okay, so we also want, the next one says blade position. So the blade, we know what a blade is. It's right here, okay? And we want it to be up for cutting. So if it's down, it's a little confusing. This one's a little confusing. So this little flat little button right here. If it's up, it says nothing. It's plain. If it's down, it's going to say locked. So see, it says the word lock on the other side. So I want it to be up. So I'm going to turn it back to the plain side, and then turn my hand wheel again, and it will raise my blade back up. So my blade's right there. Okay. So that is what that little one means. Then it tells me there's a couple of different covers for this machine. So this machine has a knife cover and it has a cover stitch cover. So this is the cover stitch one. That's this flat one. But my knife cover is right here. So this one's the knife cover. And you can see there's like little indentions here. This pulls off like this. So it pulls out. Sometimes I have to push them in a little bit like this. So this pulls off and then the other one will go on. So we'll put the other one on here in a minute. And then there's a subsidiary looper. So on this looper right here that we just brought up, there's a little thing that sticks out. It's kind of a funny looking little thing. That needs to be open for this stitch. Okay, so this one is open for this particular stitch, and I'm going to leave it open, okay, because it shows it open here. So that's what these little boxes are. So our needles, the length and the width, and oh, and I missed the stitch. So I missed the stitch selector. So what the stitch selector is, I'm sorry, I missed that box. Stitch selector is going to help us make the tension correct. So if you notice on this machine, that's the other thing that's awesome about this machine. You see there's no tension dials on here. Okay. This machine does not have tension dials. So I'm going to tell it what I want the tension to be automatically by using the stitch selector. And it's on the side over here. And for this particular stitch, it tells me I need to have it on the letter A. So there's A, B, C, and D. Okay, so that changes the tension on the machine. So I'm going to leave it on the letter A. And then the next one would have been the overlock. So I just missed that one. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's what all of these little boxes mean. And each stitch has these boxes set up so it tells you what to do. So we're going to do a couple of stitches today, set up a couple of stitches. And then we're just going to sew a little bit on it so you can see how it works. And now we need to thread it. So the trick is when you get ready to do a certain stitch, you always want the machine all set up, all these things that we just did. You want all of those things all set up on your machine, and then you're going to thread it. Okay? The machine, so don't try to redo everything and then have it all threaded first. The threading is after you set everything up. Okay, so we need to set up a 4-thread overlock. Now it's going to show me where to put my cones of thread. So, and also the machine is color coded, which is awesome. So if you look up here, it says chain looper. And the overlock stuff is green. The chain and the cover stitch side is gold. So we're going to go ahead and use the green places for our threads. So I'm going to have a lower looper, which is right here. Okay. I'm going to have an upper looper, which is up here. And it tells you, it has them all named up here so you can see them. And then we're going to have an overlock needle 2, which is right here, and an overlock needle 1, which is right here. And it tells you exactly where to put your threads. Okay, so that works really easily, and we have no problems knowing where to put our threads. If we're using the chain side, which we will in a minute, those are going to go on the gold needle spots. Okay, so everything's color coded and labeled for you, so it's so easy. Okay, so the other thing I've always loved about this machine is it can be threaded in any order. So there's no particular order that you have to thread it, but I have a tendency to thread it lower looper, upper looper, and then I like to thread the, on this one I always have to look. On this one I like to thread the needle 1 and then needle 2. Instead of 2, 1, I always do 1, 2, just because of the way the little guide thing works. So we're going to do lower looper first. And you see I have no thread in this, so we're going to thread this whole thing. And up here, it's also labeled on this little thing. Let me get my camera up a little higher. Okay, it's right here, lower looper. I don't know if you can see them or not, but up here on the little tower thing, it's also all labeled for you, so you know where to put everything. So we're going to put this up on the lower looper spot. Okay. I am going to come down this way so you can see what I'm going to do. So we need to thread our machine. Okay. So right now I opened my covers. You just kind of pull them out. And this is like a lot of the other sergers, you know. Okay, so right now it says it's in the serging mode. I want it to be in the threading mode. So I'm going to push this little lever down. And this machine has air threading in it. So there's some little tubes that are going to pop out. What I did is I put it in the threading mode, and I'm going to turn my hand wheel until the little tubes pop out. And it's very obvious. Did you hear the click? So now I can't turn my hand wheel anymore. So these little tubes have popped out. Okay. So they're ready to thread. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread this lower looper through the tension. I also have my foot up in the upright position so that the tension units are open. I'm going to bring the thread down. There's a little hook right here. Okay. Then I'm going to pull this thread down to my knee. So I have a little slack. I need a little bit of slack. Okay. And give me a second. I'm going to, whoops, sorry, my hands are really dry. So, okay. And then right here on this little, there's 3 little holes. These are the ports. And we have a lower looper and an upper looper. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the end of the thread down into the L for lower looper, about a 1/2 inch. Make sure it's not caught on anything. And then I'm going to touch this button. And I'm going to try to pull this back so you can see, because it's going to flip right over here. So see? Look, we just threaded it. There's the end. Isn't that awesome? I love these air threaders. Are so easy. Okay, so let's do the upper looper. See how easy this is. So upper looper is also got its own little spot up here. I'll pull this up just a little bit. Okay, right up here. It says UL for upper looper. Then I'm going to go through this tension unit right here. Okay, and it shows this in the picture. So if you're needing help, it shows you right here in this picture how to do this, and everything's color coded for you. Okay. Gotta find the end though. Where'd it go? Here it goes. Okay, so here we're going to go down. We're going to go through the little catch right there, and I'm going to pull this down to my knee again, and then I'm going to push this end into the U for the upper looper. Stick that in there. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the button again, and guess what? It popped out right over here. So here it is. So it just goes through those little tubes and out the looper. Isn't that awesome? So it's already threaded. So remember the older Sergers that we had to like stand on our head and do cartwheels to get down into those loopers to get those threads in. How easy was that? Okay, so now let's do the needles. So the needles also have an air threading system. So I like to do the second needle first. So I need to find which one. This is overlock needle 2, the one in the front here. So we're going to do, let's see, I want it to go, no, I wanted to do 1 first. I'm sorry. We'll do 1 and then 2. Just because of the way the little catcher on the front works. So these also have their own place. So up here is O1 for overlock 1. So I'm just going to slide that into overlock 1. Now overlock 1 slot is the one closest to the left. So we're going to do 2 second. So we'll do 1 and then come down here. We're going to go across this little catch, and then there's a little catch over here. Okay, and I'm going to turn the camera just a little bit more, and then up and over. Okay, then we're going to put it through this the little thread guide. Now the thread guide, I'm going to try to get it as close as I can. This is a little tricky. If you tip your thread to the back, like the tail to the back, and lay it horizontal, you can slide it in between. There's 2 little pieces right here, like where you can see where my fingernail is. I'm going to lay it horizontal. I'm going to push it in and pull down on the back. That's the easiest way to get them in. They're a little weird the way they're shaped. Okay. Now I'm going to put my foot down. The presser lever is over on the right. I just put my foot down just to get it out of my way. And I'm going to use the needle threader. Well, guess what? These needle threaders are also air. And my machine, I have to use like a little manual one. This is so cool. When I saw this came out, I was like, oh my gosh. So we're going to switch this to overlock because that's the side of the machine we're on. So my little thing's on overlock here. And then I'm going to hang on to my thread for a second. And I'm going to pull down over here. There's a little lever. I'm going to pull this down. And there's the little threading unit. Okay. I am going to turn on the air, and it's going to be a little noisy, and I'm going to try to get my thread kind of close to that needle. So I may have to stick my glasses on for that because I can still see it. Okay, so I'm going to hit the button. I'm going to get it close. And then I'm going to pull up on the lever like that. And if you see, the tail of the thread is right here, and it just pulled it through that needle, just like that. It's so easy. Now I'm not quite as good as the baby lock educators. They can do both of them at the same time. They can take both their threads and stick them up and do, but I have to do one at a time. So we'll do the second one so you can see it again. Okay, so we're going to go up here to O2 and do the overlock 2. It's so fun to thread this machine. You know, sergers were always like, put us all into a panic to thread our machines, you know. And I've had a machine for a really long time, a serger, and you know, we all kind of went into a panic if the thread got broken and you had to try to put it in, and it's so much easier now. So I've got it down through here. I did raise my presser lever. If you notice, it's up over here. So when I'm working with these tensions, you want this up. And I'm going to go across and up and over. And then we're going to go down here to, we're going to be putting it into this needle over here. All right, so then I'm going to, again, this is the end of the thread going this way. I'm going to lay it horizontally where these little things are, okay? Lay it horizontally, push in, and pull the tail down like that. And this will be in the second needle. So I'm just going to cut this off. And then I'm going to put my foot down again. It's just easier to have my foot down when I use the needle threader. And I'm going to pull my needle threader unit down from the left over here. And now I'm going to hit this button again. Get it close. And flip this up like that. And look. Right through there. How awesome is that? For those of us who can no longer see to thread needles, what a deal. So that is the 4-thread overlock. So let's go ahead and sew this to see how we did. So in order to get into the sewing mode, we're going to close our little door. We got everything all set up already. And then, you know, if I go to do this one, whoops, look, it won't close. I forgot to flip my lever up to serging. So it won't let you shut the cover unless you got it in the right spot. So now we can shut it. Okay. Now, the other thing I think is so awesome about this machine is, guess what? So let's say, I've done this. How many times have we all done this? We've got our fabric all ready. We're ready to go. And then we just start sewing. Well, I'm pushing the foot controller down. Nothing's happening. Well, can you see? My foot's up. Okay. So it has a sensor on it that if your presser the presser foot lever is up, it won't sew. That's so awesome. So I'm going to push this down now. And now my foot's down. Okay. Now we're ready to rock. There we go. See how we did. Look at that. I think we did very well. Look at the beautiful tension on that. Okay. So that is a 4-thread overlock. So I thought I'd show you a couple things on this side of the machine and then just switch it over to a cover stitch so you could just see how easy it is to switch it. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? Is this making sense to everybody? So we have it set up at a 4-thread overlock right now. But one of my favorite things to do is to do rolled hems. So I have this question a lot, that people like to know how to do a rolled hem. So let's find the rolled hem. Oh, and the other thing I do with my serger is I use the 3-thread overlock narrow. So you take one needle out. That's one thing. That's what I use for my piecing. I like to piece quilts, and that gives you a beautiful 1/4-inch seam. So I use this 3-thread overlock narrow for that. But I love to make rolled hems on napkins. So I thought, well, let's just set up the rolled hem and we can see the differences in it. Okay. So we're going to look at our little boxes again. Let me raise my presser lever. Okay. And it says, oh, for the 3-thread overlock rolled edge, we only need 1 needle. So I need to remove my needle on the right. So I'm just going to grab in the tools. There's a little tool box under here, which is really cool. Everything's really at your fingertips. We're going to grab the little tool that will allow us to remove the needles. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead, and it says that I should have the number 2 needle in, not the number 1. So we're going to take this one out, and the little screws are right here. Just loosen it, hopefully, and it should come out. And I might need to clip my thread. So I'm just going to clip my thread with the scissors. See, I've got it on the needle, and I'm just going to clip that thread off. And then I'm going to lay my needle up in my little toolbox because we can put it back in later if we need to. Okay. And you do need to have your toolboxes, just so you know, the toolbox lids or the bases shut when you are using the machine. Okay. So now we have our needle removed. So then what does it say? It says we need to have the length at 0.75, excuse me, to 4, but it says R. Well, this large dial, which we said is the length down here, has 2 sides. So I'm on the white side of it, and that's the regular. And if I need to be on rolled hems, this one is got a little gray circle around it. So this is the one we're going to use for the rolled hem. And I want it to be pretty tight. So I'm going to put it like basically on the 1. Okay. So that's what I'm going to put mine on for my rolled hem. And then the next one says the width is 3.5. Now, if I only have the inside needle in, I am going to be looking at the small letters. So if this inside needle is the only one in and the left needle is not, I'm looking at the little numbers. So I'm going to leave it at about 3.5, which is about medium. So we'll just leave it right there. Okay. So that's what that one does. And let's see, it says the next one says the stitch selector. So the stitch selector for this one, I'm going to open my door so you can see the stitch selector better. Okay. This one, it says my stitch selector is supposed to be on the letter D. So I'm going to push this all the way down to the letter D because it's going to roll over the edge of my fabric because it's going to tighten the looper tension. And then it says that the overlock selector, wave overlock selector, is supposed to be on overlock, which it is. It says that we don't need to worry about the chain needle or the chain looper. So that's something we're not using for this. Again, my upper looper selector needs to be up. Okay. So it is up. And then my blade position is up, which we know we already set it at up earlier. My knife cover is on, so that's the cover we've been using. And then my subsidiary loopers, this little thing that looks like it used to kind of look like a safety pin, but they kind of changed the shape of it. So that has to be open. Okay. All right. So now we're ready to sew. We're going to make sure that we have everything set up. Now this machine is threaded. Now there is one needle though that I am going to take anytime you don't have one needle in and there's thread up here, you want to remove that thread from the machine. So I'm just going to remove that thread spool for the number 1 needle for right now because we don't want it up there because sure as the world something will get tangled. So I just get it out of the way. Okay. And we got everything else set up. We don't need to rethread it because we already had the machine threaded. So see how quickly I could switch to a rolled hem. I didn't have to rethread the machine. Almost everything was in the same place. I looked at my pictures here to make sure that all my threads were in the same place, and they are. Okay. So now I'm going to open this up and let's see if we can do a rolled hem. Okay. I'm going to put my foot down, my presser lever. And let's see how we do with our rolled hem. Upside. I'm going to hang on to the camera. It's kind of jiggly. This sews a lot because it's real narrow, but see how beautiful that rolled hem is? And see how easy it was to set that up. I mean, it just took us a few minutes to do it. And it was already threaded. In this case, it was already threaded basically for everything we needed. Okay, so there's a rolled hem. There's a lot of other stitches you can do on this side of the machine. I just wanted you to kind of have a basic idea of how easy it was to thread the machine, how easy it was to thread the needles, and then how easy it is to switch from one stitch to another. So you can see it's pretty fast. I mean, look, we took what, 5 minutes to set that rolled hem up, and it's perfect. Okay, so I love doing rolled hems. Okay, so I also like doing cover stitches. Okay, so sometimes with the cover stitch, we have to switch the machine a little bit more, and it does not take long to switch from one side to the other. So we're going to switch, and we're going to make this a cover stitch machine now. I know, isn't it cool? I mean, it looks great, and I'm sorry that the camera was kind of shaky, but it looks beautiful. Now, often when I make napkins, I like to use one regular thread in the needle, and then I use that like woolly nylon or the soft thread on the loopers, because it makes the rolled edge not quite so stiff on the napkins. So that, but that turned out beautiful. Okay. All right, so let's switch this over and let's do a cover stitch so you can see what the cover stitch looks like. So we're going to need to look at our little chart again. Pull this back and we'll look at the little chart again. And let's see, these are all overlocks. This is all overlocks, and they're kind of color coded here. So see, they're green. So overlocked stuff is on the green ones, and then the yellow ones are the ones that are going to be used in the cover stitch side of the machine. So let's see, we don't need this one. Let's see, I think we're close here. All right, so let's do. There's a cover stitch left narrow, a cover stitch right narrow, a cover stitch wide. So that would be the two outside needles. There's 3 needles for the cover stitch. And then there's also the triple cover stitch. So I think we're going to do one of the narrow ones. So let's do the cover stitch left narrow. Okay, we'll choose that one. Okay, so this one's going to be a little different because we need to move some needles around. And so I'm going to put my foot up. Okay, so this one says on the cover stitch left narrow that I need to have my needles in the first 2 C positions, which in this case is on the front. So there's a little front needle holder here and a back one. So right now we're in the back one. So we're going to move those up. I'm going to get my little screwdriver again. And I'm going to take this needle out. So the overlock needles need to come out, but I can use the same needles in the front. So I'm just going to put them in the front, the 2 left-hand positions, and I'm going to just tighten my screws up just a little bit so nothing. These have a little flange on them now so that the screws don't fall out, because you used to always have to tighten your screws up, otherwise they would fall out, but they have a little thing that keeps them from that. Okay, so now we're going to put these 2 needles in the first 2 needle positions. So here's the first one. And there's a little place you can see at the top here. I don't know if you can see it very well on the camera, but you can kind of see the needle come up there. And then you can tell that you've got it all the way up, and you can see that it's in there. Okay. And then we're going to do the second one in the second position. These go flat sides to the back, just like most other sewing machines. I can't say all other because some machines are different, but most of them are flat side to the back. Okay, we're going to tighten that one up. So I've got my needles in the 2 first and second position. And then this is the third, and we're going to leave that one empty. Okay. Then it says, so we're doing this one right here. It says the length should be between 2 and 4. So my length, remember, is the large dial down here. I'm on the rolled hem side because it's got the little circle around it. So I want to go back to the regular side, and I'm going to go probably around 3. So we'll do 3. Okay. And then the width. Oh, well, the width, guess what? We're not going to cut. So the width is not something we have to worry about. The stitch selector is something that we're not going to worry about, because see, there's a line through there. The wave selector, we don't have to worry about. Okay, so those are all things we don't have to worry about with this particular stitch. But the next 2 have numbers in them. So this part of the machine has a little bit of, they have a couple little tension dials for the chain or the cover stitch. So on this one, we're going to, it says the chain needle tension, which is the one over here on the left. It's kind of on the end. You probably won't be able to see it very well. Okay. So this one, it says to leave it on 4 to 6. So I usually actually leave mine somewhere around 5, 4 or 5. Okay. That's where I leave it. And I don't hardly ever move that. So I just usually leave it around 4 or 5 right here. Okay. So it's between 4 and 5 right now. Okay. Then there's another little dial now, and they changed this a little bit from my machine. I have a different little setup, but this one has a little dial over here. And this one says that this little dial shall be between 1 and 2. It says 1 to 2. So let's just move it down to around 2. Okay. So it's a little bit, it was a little higher than that. So we'll put it on between 1 and 2, it says. Okay. So this little dial here is for the looper tension. I think that's what they called it. Yes. Chain looper tension. So we're going to put it between 1 and 2 right here. Okay. Then we're going to look at this looper down here. So remember, before we put this up, now this needs to go down for the chain stitch. So I'm going to push this down. Okay. And then remember, we had to turn the hand wheel to get it to go down. So see, now it's down. This looper is down now. Okay. And then we're going to look at our blade. So the blade was cutting, but you know, when you do cover stitch, you normally don't cut. So we're going to take this blade down, and remember we talked about this little flat thing. I wanted to say locked now because you can watch the blade go down, and now the blade is down and it says lock. Okay. Okay. And I'm glad, Barb, that it's making it seem easy, because you know, it looks scary, but I love these little charts, because once I got the hang of what everything meant, it's so easy because it just tells me what to do. Okay, so now we're going to put in, oh, the sewing table's different. So we have to take this one off, and we have to put the flat one on. Okay, so we're going to put this flat one on, and we're going to slide it into that same little hook right here. Okay, like that. So this is our flat table. Okay. And I'm trying to do this slowly, but I can actually do this with like less than 5 minutes. Okay. From one side to the other, because it's so fast. Okay. But we are going to have to rethread the machine. So we got everything, I think, set up. And yes, we have everything set up. And now we're going to thread the machine. So it tells me where to put my threads. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut. This usually gives everybody a stroke. Then I'm going to cut all these threads, and I'm just going to take all the thread out. And a lot of people just go, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? Well, you know, it's so easy to thread, right? So now you get to see it thread. So it's so easy. So it says we need to put our thread on the chain looper. So now we're going to move one thread here. We're going to use the yellow ones over here, or the gold. So this is the chain looper. And then we're going to do the first 2 chain needles. So we're going to move these threads to chain needle 2 and chain needle 1, like that. Okay. So I am going to thread the chain looper first. So my chain looper, I think I'm going to turn the machine a little bit so you can see. It's a little hard. This one's a little different the way it threads. So I'm going to take my chain looper and I'm going to drop it down through this hole. There's a hole right here. I'm just going to drop this down. If I can get it to go through there. Whoops, second here. This is always the one I have a hard time because my hands are dry and I grab the thread out of it all the time. All right, so we're going to push it through the hole and then just kind of let it drop down like that. So it's kind of dropped down the side of the machine. There's a little thing flipping out over here, and we're going to put it behind that. And I'm going to pull it up behind that, and then it goes over this little notch. There's like a little notch right here by the presser lever right here, and pull it down just like that. So just make sure it goes in there. And now there's a little hook right here. So we're going to put it through this little hook right here. And then I'm going to pull this down to my knee again. And this time we're going to use the C for the chain. So I'm going to push the end of the thread in there, and we need to make sure we get it into the threading position again. So let me turn it around. And I forgot to put my little lever down. So we're going to put our little lever down to threading, and we're going to turn this until our little, and you've probably heard them click out, our little tubes over here. Okay. All right. So it's on the threading position. Now we're ready to, whoops, make sure this doesn't get caught. And then I'm going to hit the little button. But where did my thread go? It didn't come out. There's no thread over here. So when you're using the chain, the thread goes in a different place. It has a little hiding place over here. Okay, so don't freak out if you can't see your thread. If I'm going to open this little door opens up, and there's a special little place just for the thread. Can you see it over here? There's like a little trough over here, and the thread will just go in there, and it'll just lay in that little trough. Okay, so that's where it goes. It's right in here. All right, so it's all in there. That looks good. So we're good with that. So let's do our needles. Okay, so when we do the needles, we're going to be using C1, which is cover 1 and cover 2. So this one, let's see, I'm going to do the first needle first again. So we're going to do C1 at the top, and then I'm going to come down through the little channels right here. And I like to lay it in the channel, and then there's a little thing in the back that I have to click it into. And it's easier to lay it in the channel first and then just bring it down and click it in. There's a little thing in the back. You probably can't see it. So I usually just lay it in the track and pull it straight down, and it clicks right in. Okay. Makes it easier that way. And then we're going to go down through the little thing, the little lever here, and then up and over this way. Maybe. Second, I got my end caught. There we go. Okay, up and over. And then I'm going to do the same thing. This has the same little thread guide thing. So you want to lay the tail back and horizontally, and then there's these two pieces right here, and I'm going to slide it into the slot and pull down the back. Okay, so it took me a while to get those figured out because they're a little weird. Okay, and now we're going to thread that needle. So I'm going to put my foot down. This time I'm doing the chain. So now I need to turn my lever to chain. I'm going to cut it off. And then we're going to turn on that noisy air again. But it's awesome. So we're going to put this down. I'm going to pull this down. So here's my air threading mechanism. I'm going to hit the button. Hit it close. Okay. And then I'm going to flip this up. And look, there's the tail. Pretty easy. I think I didn't. I sometimes I get those, I get them tied in a little knot. Okay, so now let's do the second one. So I'm going to get this one. This is chain needle 2. Okay. And again, I'm over here on these little slots. This is the chains over here. These are for the overlock over here. So I'm going to lay it down in the second channel, which is right here. If I lay it down, the end is down towards the needles. I'm going to lay it in there. I'm going to pull back, and then it just slides into this little clicker. Second here. Got to get this one out of my way. There we go. My hands are so dry, they just grab all the thread. Okay, so I'm going to lay it down, and then did you hear it click in? Just clicks right in. So if you put it in the channel first, it's easier to get a hold of those things and get it in the right spot. So I'm going to go under this little flip and then up and over the other silver flip. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the tail end is this way. I'm going to lay it flat, slide in, and pull down on the back. Like that. And we'll trim this off. Yeah, this machine is, I mean, it looks very complicated and scary, but it's really easy to thread. Okay. And then I'm going to pull my threading mechanism down. I'm going to hit the button. I'm going to get my thread kind of close here. Okay. And then push this up. Now this one didn't work because I have a little hook. I was hoping it would do that. I've got a little hook on the end. So let me trim it off again. If you get like a little curvy hook on the end, sometimes it causes a problem when it goes to thread. So we'll pull it down again, get it close, push the button, and flick it up. There we go. So just watch your ends. If you get like a little hook on the end, then it doesn't want to go through the needle. But I've gotten pretty used to the air threading on the needles now, and it really goes very easily. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. So we're going to move this up. So this table is a little different. See, it's all solid up here. And then remember, this won't shut if we're not in the surging position. Okay. Make sure I got that into my tension. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's see how we go. Now, when you're doing a cover stitch, make sure that you start with your needles, and it has to be when you're starting, and you have to start with your needles in fabric, okay? So don't try to start off the fabric. You can do that when you're serging, but not when you start your cover stitch or your chain stitch. It has to be in the fabric. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my needles down also into my fabric, and then I'm going to start. So let me get my little threads out of the way here so you can see better what I'm doing. I think I caught this one. Sometimes I catch them in my stitching and I can't get them out. There we go. So what this does, this would be like for the hems on your shirts, or yeah, it was cut on the foot. So after you have started your cover stitch, and you can see that it has 2 lines on the top, and on the back it looks sort of like a braid. Okay, so that's kind of like the back of your shirts, like when you hem like a blouse or a shirt, that's kind of what the hems look like on the back. So that is going to be a cover stitch. Now that I have started my cover stitch, I do not have to start in the fabric. I can start off of the fabric because it will chain off. Most machines that I know of that are cover stitch machines will not chain off, but the Baby Locks do. It's the way they're threaded. So it is a lot easier to get started on cover stitch with this machine than it is with other machines. And you can chain off on the ends. So see, I can sew off on the end. If I did that with another brand of machine, it most likely would break the threads. And see, my Baby Lock did not. Okay, so there is a chain stitch. So see how easy it was to switch from one side to the other. You can be making your shirt. You can do all your overlocking for your edges, all in your seams. And then when you're ready to hem it, you can just flip it over and you can hem it. Okay. And we can also make rolled hems. We can do the blanket stitch is really cool. You know, sometime we'll do a class that we'll just do some of the decorative stitches because they're just so neat. Some of the decorative stitches are fun, and they're interesting how they produce them and how you thread the machine. So we may do that sometime also. So that is some basic stuff on the Baby Lock Triumph. So I hope that helped everybody to learn a little bit about the machine, how easy it is to thread. And I just love the air threading. I mean, it's really changed our lives when it came to sergers and how much easier it is. And I have one machine for both things. So, okay, I think Tim's going to come back and talk to you. There's some neat promotions going on for Baby Lock. Always has their Serger month in April. So there's some really cool promotions going on right now. So I think Tim's going to come back. Hopefully he's hearing me and is going to come back and talk to you about some of the promotions. Here he comes.
Here I am.
Here he is. Okay. So maybe switch the camera back. All right. But they have some nice new promotions. Oops, there we go. Sorry. There you go.
All right. So again, thanks for joining us. We will link the promotions in the comments here after we get done. But a couple things: the Triumph, which Jan was using today, it is on sale for $59.99, I think. Normally $69.99, but they're doing a nice bundle. If you get a bundle, you get the 22-piece or 29-piece foot kit.
Yeah, it's 29 now, isn't it?
I think it's 29. Yeah. Anyway, that jumps it up to $64.99. But that's just one. They got All of the surgeries are on sale right now. 60-month financing starts tomorrow for both brother and baby lock. So again, we'll link all the information for all the different promos, because again, there's like 4 or 5 different surgeries that are in there. So check it out. If you have questions, email us, call us, all that good stuff. But yeah,
and I think next week we're going to do the Acclaim,
the Acclaim, hopefully, and the Euphoria,
So the Euphoria, that's cover stitch only, and the Acclaim is kind of the new 4-thread serger that's kind of set up like this one. So we're going to do those 2, I think, next time.
That's the plan. So
okay.
Again, have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you next week. Happy Easter.
All right. Bye-bye.